Welcome, IT changemakers, to the DEX Show with Tim Flower and Tom McGraw. Let's get into it.
Hello, changemakers. Welcome to the first post-summer Reality Bytes. It's September. The seasons have shifted, and I haven't seen you, Tim Flower, since I got back from my 2 weeks in Greece. How you doing?
I'm doing good, but not as good as you. If you spent 2 weeks in Greece, it definitely is feeling a little bit like Reality Bites with summer winding down. But I hope you had a good time.
I did. I tell you what, it was a bit like a computer game where you had to keep three young children alive in baking heat. We had scorpions in their bathroom.
Excellent.
We had a swimming pool that could drown any of the kids in the shallow end. It was an exotic and challenging environment to parent in, but a lot of fun all the same. And we're back for another Reality Bites, and it's a very, very special edition because we are joined for the first time by Sean Malvey on the content side. Sean was he was part of the kind of opening committee to launch the show, but then he inconveniently went and had his first child, a daughter, Luna. Sean, welcome back to Nexthink, and welcome to Reality Bites for the first time, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me back. I'm surprised I got the invite, but I'm here.
Quite right. Regular listeners will remember Sean. He's been on the DEX Show a couple of times. And joining Sean today on the content side of the divide is Sam Holzman. How you doing, Sam?
Very good. Thanks for having me back. Glad to be on with my friend Sean for the first time. Hopefully the chemistry is still there.
The spark hasn't gone anywhere, I'm sure. And we are joined on the tech side of our Reality Bites brain by Dina. Welcome, Dina.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Always good to have you. And Oriana. How's it going, Oriana?
Hello, it's going well, thanks.
Excellent stuff. Okay, now I'm going to break the fourth wall for a second, ladies and gentlemen, and tell you that there is, as you would imagine, a Reality Bites chat, and it was pretty lit up today with discussion and even a hint of controversy over the first topic delivered by Sean. That's going to be delivered by Sean in just a moment. And I mean that as a compliment, Sean. I think you've brought a meaty, weighty, interesting topic to get our teeth stuck into. So take it away, mate.
All right, so here we go. Well, first off, Tom, I just want to know, is this a new word, I guess, for the American English speakers?
I was going to address that too, Sean.
Controversy. I think we already have controversy in how we pronounce that word, but
Controversy.
Controversy or controversy? I don't know.
Well, I think we cut both ways, actually. I mean, I'll happily Google this and have a look, see if they are both acceptable.
Sean,
I like that
just
one.
don't make him say aluminum.
Aluminium.
I like controversy. Now I'm going to go with that.
Okay,
but,
go on. Take your controversial topic and tell us about it, Sean.
Sure. So I have a nephew who just went off to college a couple weeks ago, and he's the eldest of my nieces and nephews, and I have several more of them that will obviously go off to college. So I started thinking just about university and academic studies, and how does that transfer, if at all, to the quote-unquote real world of working in any environment, really, but specifically in a technical field. The idea is that my particular nephew, he may study a technical field later on in life, and I started wondering, for anybody who's doing that, a young person today, with aspirations of maybe one day working in a corporate IT field, what would they typically study? So I started to research a couple universities in North America and Europe, and a couple came up in Australia, the more traditional studies like computer science and information technology, and I started to look through the curriculum for those courses, or for those majors, and I could see there's an easy transfer between some of the subject matter and what we see here at Nexthink with our customers. There's courses on network security and software development and data mining and information management security and all of those things. And then I came across a subject called human-computer interaction, which I have never heard of before. And that's what I threw into the chat today with the rest of our colleagues here. And I believe Oriana has a degree in that, so I can speak to it in a second. But this is my ignorance speaking. I started searching this subject, human-computer interaction, because in my mind, that seems like it would be a good fit for somebody who not only wants to work in corporate IT, but wants to work in corporate IT and focus on the digital employee experience. And, focus on bettering the average day employee's experience at work. And the courses, this is the longest way to get to a question, but I just have to get this all off my chest. So the courses that they had in this degree include things like psychology, human-robot interaction, which I thought was really cool. It's really a wide breadth of different things that you could look at. Prototyping, like different products, user interface design. And then there was one that I quote, end quote, listed was ergonomics-related background, which I have no idea what that is, and it just seemed really interesting to me. So to get to the question, which is, I don't know if any of the more traditional degrees or any of the degrees like human-computer interaction really prepare a young person to work in the typical corporate IT environment or not. But it seems like there's plenty of stuff to pick out there. And I'm just curious what our experts have to say about that, if there's any real transferable experience you can get in the classroom and bring it over, or if, what's their opinion. So I'll just throw that into the pit, and whoever wants to take it can go.
Yeah, so human-computer interaction is a interdisciplinary field. So it combines computer science, psychology, and design. I think there's a ton of value to interdisciplinary approaches to technology, obviously, since that's what I chose to study. I'm a user experience researcher, so I'm very much on the psychology side of things. I apply psychology to understanding how do people interact with technology so that we can make it better. That means I'm usually working on software. And a lot of people who study human-computer interaction are going into building software, either as designers, as researchers, or as engineers who are building experiences that are accessible to humans using modern-day technology. So where does that intersect with IT? I think it really depends. There are definitely applications for this kind of thinking and approach in the DEX space. I know there are definitely organizations that have dedicated people who are there to craft the experiences of their employees. It's not super common yet, but I do think that it's an exciting new direction. I have met at least one person who is essentially doing my job, user experience research, but for a company so that they can improve their internal software and their internal digital employee experiences. For companies that build their own software, they often have entire teams dedicated to that, but then it's usually dedicated to that software platform. So does that apply to IT more generally? I'm not sure, and I think this is where the big open question lies. So, controversy, open question. I think really one of the things that came to my mind is how do we prepare people who are going into IT to deal with problems that aren't just keeping a network active, but also things like collaborating with HR, which is something we talk about a ton on this podcast, right? Modern IT is full of human problems, and people who get technical training often end up in a workplace completely unprepared with how to navigate things like corporate politics and how to explain to people the value of good digital employee experience and things like that maybe they understand because they work with the impact of that day in and day out, but they haven't been handed the tools for how to talk about it, how to improve it, things like that. And I think that's some place where an interdisciplinary approach could be really great in the IT space.
Yeah, I agree. And it's really cool timing. My son was just down here to visit me for a couple of days. I'm in Wilmington. He came down from Boston, and he is a fifth-year grad student, so he's got 9 years of collegiate studies under his belt. And he was telling me a story about just he did his internship over the summertime in corporate America, outside of academia, outside of research. And he said, Dad, you know what? I sat in these meetings in the corporate world, and I had nothing to ground myself or prepare myself for even just how a regular 1 hour meeting operates. There's a host of the meeting. There's someone taking notes. There's a written agenda. And he said, in academia and in research, we don't have any of that. When I'm sitting around a table, everyone around the table is interested solely in their area of expertise and what's going to benefit their research. So even just to take it up from preparing for IT, I think collegiate studies are not preparing people even how to operate in a normal corporate environment. I'm sure there's classes you can take, but it's going to depend on the track. I think we're still very much focused on the vertical subject matter expertise that you need, especially when you're in technology, and not doing enough to prepare you on how that technology translates into the corporate world, both for you in collaborating with other departments, but also applying that technology that you learned to the employees that you're serving. I definitely think there's a gap there.
I agree to both to Tim and Oriana on the fact that in most of the studies, engineering, infotech, computer science, what we spend the 4 or 5 years, however long it is, to study those courses, it's purely directional to the origin of how everything started, where it is right now, but with very, very little actual practical information or practice in action that would be very beneficial into the real life. So it's the fact that people get to study things from the books that by the time they're graduated, it's kind of outdated. And even when they try to put it into action, it's only vertical. You need to have a horizontal view. You need to have more visibility on how you're going to put whatever you've learned into a real action, not just into through programming, but what does this program do? How does it work with the ecosystem and how it's being utilized and used by users at the end of the day? Because it's people who make technology for other people. So I think that's an area where we're still a little bit behind on giving students in universities the actual real life knowledge that they can just graduate and get to learn and put it into action. So just the fact that they spend all those times and hours into courses, it's basically just to decipher how the digital world would be working.
Amazing. So thank you, Sean, for rolling that very agreeable hand grenade into the discussion today. It went off very smoothly, I think, the actual execution of the chat. And let's move on with that to the second representative from content today, Sam Holzman. What have you got for us, Sam?
Yeah, so this story I've brought today might not have generated as much controversy in the Reality Bytes chat, but I imagine out in the real world it generates more controversy because it concerns the dreaded topic of cost reduction in IT. Specifically, we're at this weird stage post-pandemic where things, have stabilized out a bit, but there are still a number of reasons for businesses to be looking at the market and feeling a prolonged sense of economic uncertainty. And we've seen concepts in terms like recession-proofing your business really kind of gain steam in recent months. And when it comes to IT, historically, IT has often been looked at as a cost center for businesses. Executives will look at the amount of money they're spending on technology, on resources for IT, and if they don't see a real tangible return on investment, which is often hard to see when it comes to IT, it can lead to IT having a negative perception among leadership, even if they don't necessarily deserve it. And in a time of economic uncertainty, that can be a really stressful relationship for IT to navigate. So I was really interested because we've done so much research into this topic, but I was really interested in getting the technologists' side of that story. What do you do when you're under the microscope of leadership and you're trying to balance innovation that improves the digital workplace with this more urgent priority of reducing costs? And maybe added on to that, is there a way to change this perception of IT from a cost center to something that does make the business more successful, more profitable, and more cost efficient?
Yeah, so I'll jump in. My experience is basically if you're an IT shop delivering poor service at a high expense, you're always going to be under that microscope. In my past history working in enterprise IT, the CTO would hand out these things called tasks. And it was usually this time of year where some budgets had not fully spent their estimated budget dollars, others were over, and CEO, CFO were looking to cut costs by the end of the year. And the task equaled a dollar sign, typically in the millions. And the way IT leadership would look at that task to save $10 million, it's a very short time frame too. You can't implement new technology and immediately get your savings back. So the approach is pull out the budgets and let's start to look at what line items we can delete that equals up to that task of XYZ, $10 million. And it's indicative of a bunch of things. Number one, you're looked at as a cost center. You're costing me money. You're not enabling the business. It's an indicator that there isn't much proactivity going on in order to become more efficient because you're in the middle of the year and you don't have time to be proactive and do the right things. Your only solution is to start cutting line items. And it's a clear indication that that you've got kind of these bigger problems. If you've got an ability to be proactive in your planning, in your execution, in your design, you can actually accomplish multiple things and avoid that scrutiny. If you're able to improve your service delivery and start to be viewed as a partner in business, then the money that is being spent on that service delivery is worth it. You're enabling me, you're providing great service, my employees are happy and productive. And if you do it with enough lead time to achieve those results, you've got then an ability to invest and get your money back in the right amount of time versus always being under the gun. So I think it's just, it's not only we talk a lot about being proactive with IT response to issues. This is about being proactive in how you're managing your IT environment and looking years down the road to figure out how you structure yourself the right way. I think there is a way out of it, but it takes some strategic planning.
I would agree to that, and the fact that IT is mostly looked at as the cost center, where we're just spending lots of money and we're not getting ROI. When this perspective starts to change and organizations are looking into IT as partners in achieving value or in achieving our objectives and main strategic goals, the whole picture starts to change. Like Tim was just saying on the budgets and finding the line item that we can get rid of just to save up some money from Department A to help Department B. Those kind of stuff, they're a little bit outdated as long as you don't have that much visibility and you don't have that much control and projection over what could you do to not just eliminate the cost of whatever line item you're spending, whether it's hardware, software, integrations, or cloud data centers and so on. It could be the cost avoidance. So if we have the items and the visibility and tools and the perspectives where we are interacting with our users and actually can find back the enhancement that we are providing from an IT perspective to their services and how they're doing their day-to-day work and saving their amount of time, saving them from spending that much on different kinds of applications and softwares where lots of money is being spent, and it causes, of course, another issue for IT from a compliance perspective. But as long as we're empowering IT with the tools and the visibility, there will be becoming an actual partner to the organization where it will be easy to actually pin out the other sheets that would be showing off the cost saving that we can provide to the organization.
Well, the first comment that popped into my head is we should have saved this for the Halloween episode because it is everybody's worst nightmare.
I had a Halloween thought too when I was thinking about the tasks that they handed out at my previous employer. It was kind of like Charlie Brown on Halloween, right? What'd you get? Oh, I got a rock. It's that horrible feeling that you got to go deal with.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything everyone said. And cost avoidance, like Dina said, is a big one. There are so many costs that we don't even know are coming unless we really think about IT holistically, right? Like when you think about the impact of DEX on things like employee retention, or when we look at, say, a company that damaged their stock value by firing their security team. You know, there are these downstream effects that we can predict if we look at IT in this more holistic sense.
Excellent. Well, I think it was a great first show post-summer, everybody, and anticipating our Halloween special, which will be coming up soon and will be about as frightening as DEX can be. We promise our listeners that. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this very controversial show. Yeah, that's how you do it. I looked it up in the meantime. And huge thanks to everybody who came on. A special thanks to Sean for joining us for the first, but certainly not the last time. Dina, Oriana, Sean, Tim, Sam, Catherine, thank you all so much, and we'll see you soon.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
To make sure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a rating of the show. Just tap the number of stars you think the podcast deserves. If you'd like to learn more about how Nexthink can help you improve your digital employee experience, head over to nexthink.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.